All right, today we're going to tackle a word you hear all the time, a huge idea that pretty much shapes our entire world, democracy.
But, what does it actually mean? Like, when you strip away the headlines and the big speeches, what's at the heart of it? Well, let's break it down together.
So first up, we're going to go way beyond a simple dictionary definition. Let's find out what really makes a democracy tick.
Okay, so at its very core, it's all about people power. I mean, a democratic government is basically a system where the citizens, that's us, get to choose their leaders. And by doing that, we get a say in how the country is run. Sounds simple enough, right?
Well, here's the thing. Sometimes the best way to really, truly understand what something is to look at what it is not. So what happens when people don't get that power to choose?
And that right there is the crucial difference, the fundamental split. It all boils down to one question. Can people elect their leaders through a fair process, or can't they? That's really the main dividing line between democratic and non-democratic governments.
So on one side of that line, you've got a dictatorship. This is where one single person holds all the cards, all the power. There are no elections, nothing to hold them accountable. And their rule, it's usually absolute and kept in place by force.
Then you have something like a monarchy. Here, power isn't taken by force or won in a vote. Nope, it's passed down through a family, from one generation to the next. So, in both of these systems, you can see the common thread. The people don't get to pick who's in charge.
Okay, but this is where it gets a little more complicated. And honestly, a lot more interesting. Just because a country holds a vote, does that automatically mean it's a democracy? Let's dig into that.
It turns out one of the most important features, like a non-negotiable ingredient for a true democracy, is something called free and fair electoral competition. In other words, the election has to be a real contest, not just political theater.
And this right here, this image, it really shows the ideal situation perfectly. See, it's not just about showing up and putting a piece of paper in a box. It's about having a genuine choice between different people, different parties, different ideas. And here's the kicker. Those currently in power have to face the very real risk that they could lose. That risk, that's everything. That's what keeps them on their toes.
Which leads us to a really important question then. What happens when that choice isn't real? What if a country just goes through the motions of an election, but that key element of a fair choice just isn't there?
And these pictures show two classic ways that can happen. On one hand, your choice can be super limited right from the get-go, like in a one-party system. Or on the other hand, the whole process can be rigged, where one party just mysteriously wins every single time, no matter what.
Let's take China, for example. The law basically says only candidates from the Communist Party can run. So yeah, people vote, but there's no real competition. Or look at Mexico for a big chunk of the 20th century. One party, the PRI, just kept winning and winning. And it turns out they were using all sorts of unfair methods to stay in power.
So here's the bottom line. The symbols of democracy, having a voting booth and all that stuff doesn't automatically make a country a true democracy. The real acid test is this. Can people freely choose their leaders? And, this is just as important, can they kick them out? That's the real foundation. All right, so we've seen that a real democracy is actually pretty tricky. And let's be real, it's definitely not a perfect system. Which brings us to a huge question. If it's not perfect, why do so many people think it's the best way to go? I mean, let's be honest for a second. Democracies can be messy. They can be really, really slow. So knowing all that, why is it so often championed as, the best system out there?
This little table here lays out the debate perfectly. On the pro side, the arguments are really strong, right? It makes governments more accountable, it protects citizens' rights, it even enhances our dignity. But the con side is totally legit too. It can be unstable if leaders are changing all the time, making decisions can take forever, and sometimes leaders just do what's popular, not necessarily what's smart.
But let's zero in on that first point for a second. Accountability. This is a huge deal. In a democracy, leaders can't just do whatever they feel like. Nope, they have to answer to the people. And if the people aren't happy, well, they have the ultimate power to vote them out. That right there is an incredibly powerful check on anyone's power.
Okay, for our last section, let's zoom way out for a minute. Because the idea of democracy, it's actually way bigger than just who's running the government. It's a principle, an idea that can show up in all parts of our lives.
And this diagram really drives that point home. The core ideas of democracy, having a voice, being heard,
Those don't just belong in some fancy government building. They can pop up in our families, in our schools, even at work. Just think about it for a second. When your family is trying to make a big decision and everyone gets a say, that's like a mini democracy right there. Or when every single student in a classroom feels like their opinion matters, that's the democratic ideal in action. It's all about everyone getting to participate and everyone having a fair shot. And this quote, man, it just nails it. It really gets to the heart of the whole thing. See, democracy isn't some finished product you can just buy off a shelf. It's not a destination you finally arrive at. It's a project, a never-ending project that needs constant effort from absolutely everyone, rulers and citizens alike.
So I guess I'll just leave you with this one final thought to chew on. If democracy really is this ongoing project that's never truly done, what's one little thing that you, personally, could do to help build it? Maybe in your own community or your school, or even just in your family. What could you do, starting today?